Alright, Dokimon Master. It's Coach Blake here. Of course, you know who I am. You're in my server. Alright, so we're going to be going over your VOD here. It's going to be a Zac VOD. I decided to choose a Zac VOD just because it was pretty long. And I really only had two options anyway, but it was pretty long, and I thought, you know, maybe I can learn, or maybe we can learn something about it, considering that it helps you a lot with your early game. Zac is a really early game dominant champion, and by that I mean his ganks are extremely strong. So you have to learn that, okay, well, my champ's extremely good at ganks. I got to make sure that when I'm ganking, or I got to make sure that I am ganking in the early game. So what we want to try to do for the early game is we want to analyze as much as possible. So we want to know really where we want to path. Zac pretty much can do a level 3 clear into gank, or he could do a full clear if he wants to. Usually you would do, depending on what side you want to play to, you would do red. You could do raptors if you want. You could do wolves, and then you could do blue. That'd be a four camp, three level clear, or you could do a red to wolves to blue. He's just really good at doing the AoE camps, so you just might as well do the bam 1, 2, 3, 4, because he's just so good at the AoE camp, and he can pretty much clear it, especially when you're running talisman. Now, once you figure out what side you want to go to, oh, and of course the full clear would be red to Krugs to Raptors, and then all the way down. Now, what we see in this game is that you did red to Raptors to Krugs, and if you're playing on ganking, that's fine, but you don't want to do that and then not really know what to do after that. So really, you want to make sure that when you're pathing, you understand where you're going. Well, how do we figure out where we're going? Well, we have to think about what lanes pretty much have better gank potential, right? So it's easier to just make sure, it's easier to gank a Morgana that lands a snare than it is to gank a Garen that has just a silence for you and Shin could just dash out. So I would just probably prioritize going bottom, so I'd path bottom. So choosing to path bottom here allows you to make sure that you're ending down here and you're able to get a gank off as frequently as possible. Now, I'm not saying leave Garen alone. I'm just saying that you don't want to give as much resources to Garen. He should be fine by himself, and that's not really our win condition. So come down here, try to get our bot laners a lead, and then we can rotate and do our best to help out that top lane there. So what we want to do now, after we figure out where we want to go, which is we want to go bottom, and then of course we want to figure out 80-20. So we want to spend 20% of our time top and 80% of our time bottom. Now we want to figure out, well, what clear do we want to do? Honestly, it's probably just better for you to go the red, Raptors, Wolves, Blue, Gromp, and then look to do something. If Lee Sin starts red, you can go into his jungle. If not, you can choose a gank mid or bot. Both really good win conditions to go for. So that's pretty much what we want to do. Now, next thing that we want to talk about here is, let's go ahead and go to it, is don't waste time on counter ganking when you know that you can. So if we look at this real quick, it's 322. Let's look at this. So we're going in for a gank here, right? And we don't really know if we can win the 2v2. Meaning we don't really know where Lee Sin is. And then we die, of course, because of that. If we know we can't win the 2v2, we have to make sure that we don't go for ganks if we don't know where the jungler is. We have to always know where their jungler is, or else we're just going to get put down. You know, we're just going to lose the fight. So when we look at these laners, can Lee Sin, or can Zac and Garen beat a Lee Sin and Shin? You could think maybe, but you have to realize, is your champ stronger than Lee Sin? No? Okay then, we only rely on ourselves, right? Now, mid lane, same exact thing. Well, if Irelia plays bad, he dies. You're not stronger than Lee Sin, so no matter how you play, you're still weaker than he is. If we look at bot and we look at the 3v3, Zac, Ezreal, Morgana, Lee Sin, Draven, and Vel'Koz. We don't win anywhere with a 2v2 or a 3v3. So we have to make sure that any gank that we go for, the jungler is not there. So every time we go for a gank and we know that they can win the 2v2 or a 3v3, we have to make sure that the jungler is just not there. That way we can get an uncontested gank off, okay? Next one is, there really is no reason to fight, especially when it won't lead to anything, especially when your laners don't have priority as well. So if we go to 340 here, Let's go ahead and go to 340. Actually, it's not 340, it's 440. It's 540. You just fast forward it because it's coming up pretty soon. All right, so doing our clamps, really good. I like how you're pathing in a line. Always want to make sure that you're pathing in a line. That is what we want to do. We collect this farm. Good job there. So it was 630. I don't know why I typed 330. Right? Then he comes in, right? You're like, oh no, Lee Sin, run away, which is good. Right here, we should look to back because we have camp spawning. This is going to be spawning, and of course, you clear wolves after, so that's going to be spawning soon. Plus, we have Rift Herald here, and we have a potential, if Lee Sin decides to gank Garen, we have a potential to take camps, right? We have a lot of opportunities over here than we have over here. Yet, we're trying to look to get a little fight here. When A, we don't win the 2v2, and B, there's really nothing for you to get. There's nothing to defend him from. So just recalling, getting your items, and being strong on the map is way more important than you trying to force a fight here. Even though you're level 6, once again, we don't win the 2v2, so it doesn't really matter. And it's just extremely hard to catch as well. All right, so let's see, 720. So at 720, we go for a gank here. And this is pretty cool. I like it. But same thing that we said before is that we don't... Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't that moment. This isn't that moment. This moment is when we're not paying attention to the fact that we burn summoners and the fact that we don't have to use our ultimate. If you pay more attention to the lanes, especially when they're fighting, when you see Portra's Clump pan over, that's the best way to know, oh, they're fighting? Let me look at it, right? And at that point, what you want to do is pay attention to what summoners are being used. That way, when you go to gank that lane, you know what summoners are being used, and you know how to impact that lane. So in this situation, you didn't pay attention to his summoners being used. Well, we can't say you didn't, but I'm going to assume you didn't pan over when they were fighting. But Irelia gave you the fact that his flash is down and Lee Sin's flash is down. Knowing that, you watch this play, there's no way he gets away from you. I mean, if you don't ult, he still dies. But you decide to ult to secure. Now, if you do want to go for a gank anywhere else, you don't have your ultimate for an extremely long time. Zack's ult cooldown is ridiculously long, and you don't want to just use it like that. You want to use it as sparingly as possible. So you need to pay attention to the fact that, okay, this guy has no summoners, this guy has no way to get away from me, he uses abilities, I don't have to use my ultimate, this is going to be perfectly fine. Also, what you could have done to make sure you could have got it without having to use your ult is you could have waited for Irelia to come up just a little bit more and go for it, but that'd be up to you. The main point here is just to make sure that we pay attention to the summoners so we know what abilities we have to use and what abilities we don't have to use. That way, we can get little juicy free killies here. Next one is 935. All right, right here going in, we see that, okay, we got the camp, we're taking the camp. I like this, we're counter jungling, but we leave the big camp. Now, I don't know if you're leaving the big camp to go for a gank. I don't know if you're leaving the big camp to just leave it, but I'm going to just assume you're leaving it to counter jungle, which is fine. But we don't want to leave the big one. We want to leave the small one. Also, it's not really worth leaving camps if the jungler isn't really farm oriented anyway. So things like Lee Sin, things like Jarvan, things like Sylas, they're not really farm oriented. They just kind of want to make plays around the map. Elise, stuff like that. You taking their camp isn't really going to do much for them, especially because they can just go on your camp or go on your jungle and just take it from you anyway without any problem whatsoever, especially when their laners have priority. So what we want to do is just take all of it. That way, he's not really going to know when it spawns, and that way, well, until he walks past it, of course. And then that way, we also get as much experience and gold from it as possible. How to know which camps to leave? Well, when you're dealing with the Krugs, you leave the small one. You don't break that small one. If you break the big one into the small one, it's still not going to stay. You have to leave the small one. So you only kill the big one and the little things that spawn after the big one. For the raptors, just leave a little raptor. It doesn't matter where. If you really want to get cheeky, you can leave the raptor right here. So when he queues over the wall, he's wasting time, and then he has to come walk around to clear it. Rather than leaving the one here, he could just queue and take it anyway. The wolves, same concept, just leave one wolf. And then, of course, you can't really leave Gromp there, right? So make sure that we go ahead and do that. Now, when we're going for a gank here, this is fine. It's a really good gank, but when you're going for a gank, you want to ping your team, specifically, which one are we going to target? Seeing that this guy's way over here, it's more idealistic for us to do it over here. He's separated from the support, and also your team is already closer. Now, if we do want to go for Vel'Koz, we want to ping our team. We want to pay attention to where they are and think realistically, can they help this out? No, so let's go for this guy. That way there's no confusion. Same thing when you're ganking and there's a counter gank. You want to ping who to focus so that your team is aware. Because most of the time, what they're going to do is just focus whoever they're next to, which is exactly what happened. And you didn't have to die here. And Ezreal didn't have to die there. If we would have just focused, or if we would have pinged the target and then realized, oh, Vel'Koz is too far, and we focus the one that's closer. So when you're going for ganks, make sure you ping the target and really pay attention to the positioning of players. That way you don't have to overcommit to something, and you can easily get a free kill just by backing off. And then, of course, the last note here that I kind of wanted to say was just bringing up and just kind of beating a dead horse, so to speak, is we don't really want to go for a gank when we don't know where the jungler is. Once again, it happens again. Go for a gank, not sure where the jungler is, and then he decides to flash in and come get you, and then an easy kill turns into a double kill for them. So this game was pretty much over by this point. Looking at the scores, 3-0-1 Shen, 3-0-3 Lee Sin, 5-2-4 Xerath, and that's only because we didn't play to the right side. We tried to help every lane, and you just realistically can't do that. One lane is going to have to play without you because you can't play both sides of the map at any given time, which is why you want to do 80-20. That way, you can spend 80% of your time somewhere, and you can still help out, but you just can't give all your attention there. And you're still pathing in a line, focusing on what you want to do. So in this game, I think the main thing that we should be focusing on here is where to path, how to path properly, doing our 80-20, and making sure that when we're going for ganks, especially as a weaker jungler, and we don't know if we can win the 2v2 or the 3v3, we know exactly where that Lee Sin is, or that Graves, or anything else that's stronger than you are, so that we're not going to end up in a really bad position like this one. So that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. And thank you for participating in the free VOD review.